Is it easy for you to take life for granted? Let's talk about that on today's 10-minute talk. Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to today's 10-minute talk, or if you're new, welcome to today's 10-minute talk. My name is Pastor Jay Wentworth. I'm the lead pastor at Spirit Alive Wesleyan Church in Yakima, Washington. And today we are talking about, are you taking life for granted? I gotta tell you, friends, I'm a very music person. Okay, I listen to music almost constantly when I'm doing typing or when I'm writing my message or when I'm doing anything. Basically, if there's silence, I'm gonna have some music somewhere. Okay, I can't really deal with like super duper silence unless I'm doing my time alone with God. But there are certain songs when they come on, and one of them is probably the song "Home" by Philip Phillips or "Gratitude" by Brandon Lake. Those are a couple songs that come to mind immediately, where I just appreciate everything God has done in my life, and I kind of think back on all the changes that have been made in my life and all the things that God has done for me throughout the years. And I think sometimes it's easy for us in the hustle bustle of every day, or when things and trauma happens to us, to lose that appreciation for the amazing beauty that we're surrounded by and the people that are in our life and the beautiful things that happen every day. And friends, there's so many crazy things happening in the world right now that the devil is trying to distract us from what is good and pure and honest and beautiful. And friends, there's so much of good, honest, pure, and beautiful. So much of it. Friends, I can't even begin to explain how much more good there is than evil. And we miss that because our media and really our minds, especially in our country, are poisoned to focus on the negative. And friends, that is a tool of the enemy. Pessimism is a huge tool of the enemy. Okay? One of my favorite things that somebody said in a sermon once, and I wish I could recall who it was it does not matter if your glass is half full or if your glass is half empty. What matters is that you remember that you get a glass in the first place. That you get a life in the first place. That you get to be alive and experiencing all the amazing things you get to experience. Now, this is not to say that nothing horrible happens. But friends, when you focus on the beauty God has put in your life and you find joy in that, it doesn't erase the hurt, but it reminds you that laced within that hurt is a God that will come through for you. I want to read you scripture from Matthew 18, 1 through 6. Let's listen. At that time, the disciples came to Jesus saying, "Who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven?" And calling to him a child, he put him in the midst of them and said, "Truly I say to you, unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. Whoever humbles himself like this child is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Whoever receives one such child in my name receives me. But whoever causes one of these little ones who believes in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." Matthew 18, 1 through 6. You may be wondering, what does this have to do with taking life for granted? And that's a great, great question. Let's dive into that. Here in the passage, Jesus says, "Unless you turn and become like children, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." Now that means a lot of things. But I want you to think back to when you were a small child, age 4, age 5, an unassuming child who was curious about the world, who when new things popped up, there was an amazement, there was an astonishment, a joy that is so pure, it is really beyond human understanding as to why a child would find so much joy in the simplest little things. And that, my friend, is the key. What if we stayed like that? What if every time we saw a creation of God or something amazing, we stayed like that little child? That every little thing just brought us so much joy. Friends, I've met people like that. And it's almost unbelievable how filled with joy they are at just the smallest things that God does in their lives. But they truly are. Because they have faith like a child, because they know that God has put that in their life. That it's not just a circumstance, it's not just a normal everyday thing. It's something that's amazing because they get to experience it because of God. And I really believe little children have that type of faith, even if they can't name it as faith. And what's crazy is a lot of times, even without prompting, they can. And that in itself is something we should find astonishing. But they just are so, when they're learning and growing and seeing new things, what if we kept that? What if even something we've experienced 100 times, we wake up one day and even something as simple as we get to have food for breakfast and we aren't starving is just a joy. And the crazy thing is, people who have less seem to have this attitude more because they appreciate every little thing that comes their way. When we complain about so many mundane things. You know, I was reminded of that last night, and Carla and I, it was after youth group, it was late, we didn't have time to make dinner, we went to a drive-thru. And it was slow, it was slower than normal, I should say. I still wouldn't call it slow. And I started to complain about how long it was taking. And Carla, my wife, checked me and said, I don't think your complaining is going to make the food come any faster. And it dawned on me this morning on what I was complaining about. Friends, I pulled up to a building and a vehicle that can go 100 miles an hour that I own, to a building where people have a job and get paid and prepare food for me and then hand it to me through a window, and I can just drive home in a few minutes and enjoy a hot meal. Hold on. And I'm complaining. And then I'm like, how stupid is it to complain? And then you wonder why kids get so excited about getting like a Happy Meal or taking a trip to McDonald's. It's because they don't see the ability to complain. They don't have it. Because they're like, this is amazing. We get to go to this building and somebody's going to give us food through a window or over a counter. They're going to make our food for us. And it's going to taste great. And they have that childlike joy. And it's knowing that God has put something in their lives and given us a privilege that's amazing. But here's what happens. As parents, we complain about it. As parents and adults, we complain about things. And we have that attitude, like who is the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? That prideful attitude, like I deserve better. I deserve more. This should be going faster. And this is where the second part of the passage comes in. Because then these little children see our complaining and thinks that is what you're supposed to do. And what does it say? Whoever causes one of these little ones to sin, it would be better for him to have a millstone fastened around his neck and be thrown into the sea. Are you causing them to directly sin? Not directly, but that attitude you have that you are sharing with that child at that time, further down the line will cause them to sin and lose that childlike joy. Friends, something has happened to some of us that has taken part of our childhood and tarnished it. Some of us may have never had that childlike joy because of situations going on in our lives. And I understand that. So what we need to do is examine ourselves and ask ourselves 2 questions here today. Question number 1, what part of your inner child has been lost and why? What part of your inner child has been taken away from you, or you have chosen to bury deep within because of a hurt, or because you have forgotten what it's like to have that joy, or because you're so in your routine every day that you feel you don't have time to worry about the little things? Friends, slow down. You do have time. And if something happened to you, friends, reach out to somebody to talk to them about it, because that's not okay. And it is okay to be okay. And I think we need to remember that. Question 2 is, what do you take for granted? That's a simple question. Obviously, for me, I think I do take food for granted. I think I take a lot of things for granted. I think we all do. And sometimes when we don't sit down and think about what we take for granted, we miss the fact that there are so many beautiful things in this life that we get to experience that other people don't, and that we get to experience because of God. And I think that can be said for everybody on this planet. So won't you lean into God and be like a child again and have joy and experience this day with pure joy? Friends, please share this video if you can. Please subscribe to either my channel or the church's channel, or both. We would prefer that, obviously. We love you, and we hope you have an absolutely amazing day. Thanks for hanging out with us today. God bless.